quiet town, a dark night, and an absolutely deserted road. At first glance, everything seems ordinary. But in today's world, you never know what kind of terrifying reality might be lurking around the next corner. The silence of a desolate road can suddenly shatter and morph into the blare of police sirens, the blinding flash of media cameras, and the hushed, anxious whispers of the crowd. Every crime story begins with a question, but some questions are so chilling that people dread even imagining the answers. And when the police start connecting the dots to reach those answers, the entire community speaks of only one thing. What is the truth? Where today we delve into the deeply disturbing case of Nageshwar Rauniyar, a shocking event that instantly destroyed the peace of the Maharajganj district, a historic region of Uttar Pradesh connected to the Nepal border. Here in the small village of Rajabari, under the Thutibari police station jurisdiction, lived a 26-year-old man, Nageshwar Rauniyar. He was known as a simple, hard-working, and cheerful person, the eldest son carrying the responsibility of his entire family on his shoulders. Parents, a wife, a younger brother, and 2 sisters. A perfectly ordinary family struggling through extraordinary times. Nagesh, once a hard-working caterer even across the Nepal border, had been grappling with severe financial difficulties in recent years. As catering work dried up, he started working at a local ration shop in his village. His life with his wife, Neha, a resident of Nepal's Nawalparasi district, started off well. A love marriage in 2019, followed by the birth of their son, Advik, now around 5 or 6 years old. Their initial life was stable, but slowly the situation began to deteriorate. The lack of work, the financial strain, and the stress of living away from his parents. All these factors were quietly eroding Nagesh's spirit from within. He was a man under pressure, and on the evening of September 12th, 2025, that pressure cooker was about to blow. Let's focus on the evening of September 12th, 2025. Around 5 p.m., Nagesh's father returned home and immediately noticed that his son's black Platina bike was missing. He initially assumed Nagesh had gone out for some work. However, as time ticked by, evening turned to night, and Nagesh neither returned home nor went to his wife's place. Calls to his phone rang, but he wouldn't answer. By 10 p.m., the family's concern had escalated into full-blown worry. Then an even stranger thing happened. The phone began to show a busy signal, as if he were deep in conversation with someone, while the family was in a state of growing panic. The night deepened, and outside, the world remained silent. The next development occurred about 30 kilometers away from the Thutibari police station jurisdiction, deep within the Nislal police station area. In the early hours of September 13th, around 3 a.m. near Damki village, some passers-by noticed a fallen bike on the road, with a young man lying next to it. At first sight, it seemed like a typical road accident, but when people got closer, they realized the young man was not breathing. Within minutes, villagers gathered, and the police soon arrived at the scene. In the darkness, the police could make out a few details. A young man aged between 25 and 30, dressed in a gray t-shirt and lower garment with telltale red stains on his clothes. He had injuries near his face and deep wounds on his legs. His mobile phone was found in his pocket and his bike was lying nearby. Adding to the seemingly simple picture, a distinct smell of alcohol was emanating from the body. Initially, the case was logged as a simple accident. However, the police were completely unaware that this case was about to balloon into a massive, complex murder investigation in the days to come. As the police began a meticulous examination of the scene, one stark fact became immediately clear. This was no ordinary road mishap. They observed peculiar markings near the neck and deep pressure marks on the wrists of the hands and feet, consistent with having been bound. Yet there was not a single piece of rope found anywhere nearby. This discrepancy alone was enough to tell the officers that the true story did not begin on that deserted road. It had started somewhere else and had been intentionally ended here. Using the bike and the mobile phone, the police quickly identified the victim. It was none other than Nageshwar Rauniyar. Before dawn, the police informed Nagesh's father, Keshavraj. He was called to the station, and Nagesh's body was immediately sent for a post-mortem. The police knew the real answers could only come from the dead body itself. As the morning progressed, a large crowd gathered on the road. Everyone whispered, offering their own theories about the incident. This area was known for its tranquility, and an event like this, a likely murder, was enough to shock the community to its core. The police began to proceed on the assumption that they were dealing with a conspiracy to commit murder. The complete picture, however, would only emerge after the post-mortem report was released. In the meantime, the police initiated preliminary questioning of the family. Who was the last person to see Nagesh? Who did he talk to? In which direction did he leave? Next, the investigators moved on to the call details. Nagesh's call detail record CDR was extracted. Who called him last? Where was his location? During this process, a significant, potentially game-changing fact emerged. About a year prior, Nagesh had been jailed under the NDPS Act and had spent several months behind bars. This revelation prompted the police to thoroughly examine Nagesh's entire background. They started digging into his old disputes, potential rivalries, and grudges. And then another deeply strange and suspicious fact came to light. Despite such a major tragedy, Nagesh's wife, Neha Rauniyar, had not returned to her in-laws' house. Her phone was switched off and no one seemed to know her whereabouts. She had recently moved out of their previous rented house and shifted to a new place. The crucial detail? Only Nagesh knew the address of this new home. The family had remained completely unaware of the new location until now. The stage was set, the victim identified, and a key figure was now missing. What was Neha's connection to Nagesh's criminal past, and why was she nowhere to be found when her husband lay dead? The silence around Nagesh's death was a lie, a carefully constructed illusion, and it was about to be shattered. It was the evening of September 13th, and the initial post-mortem report landed in the hands of the police. This single document completely flipped the entire narrative. The report confirmed the police's deepest suspicions. Nagesh had not died in a road accident. Instead, he was taken elsewhere and mercilessly beaten. He had been forcibly given alcohol or kept in a state of severe intoxication. Only after he was nearly unconscious was he placed on his bike and dumped on the deserted Damki road to make the entire incident look like a simple, fatal accident. The wounds on his legs, the deep abrasions and gashes, further supported this dark theory. The report suggested these injuries were consistent with his foot dragging on the road and hitting the bike stand while the motorcycle was moving. The chilling part was that he felt no pain, likely because by then he had already succumbed to his injuries. With the post-mortem report confirming the murder, the police investigation immediately intensified. The first suspicion naturally fell upon the family who owned the ration shop where Nagesh had worked. There had been prior reports of arguments and disputes between Nagesh and the shop owner's family. As dusk fell, the police picked up Ramdaras, the shop owner, and his wife for questioning. But during the interrogations, an entirely new and critical character came to light. This was a friend of Ramdaras's son, Jitendra. This friend voluntarily approached the police and revealed a crucial piece of information. Around 10 p.m. the previous night, he had received a phone call from a woman. She wanted to speak with Jitendra. The friend explained that for the past few months, Jitendra had been using his phone to talk to this specific woman, as Jitendra himself did not own a phone. On the night of the murder, after the 10 o'clock p.m. call, Jitendra had left and had not been seen by his friend since. When the police, having detained Jitendra's parents, asked them about their son's whereabouts, their only reply was, "We don't know." The police immediately seized the friend's mobile phone and began the process of extracting the CDR and location data for the woman's number. They needed to know three things urgently: where the call originated, where the phone was currently located, and most importantly, whose name was registered to that number. Simultaneously, Nagesh's own call details were analyzed, painting a complex picture of his final hours. Among many familiar contacts, one name kept surfacing repeatedly: his wife, Neha Rauniyar. Neha had also called her husband on the evening of September 12th. However, the most shocking discovery came from cross-referencing the data. The phone number belonging to the woman Jitendra had been talking to, the one found in the friend's mobile, was registered to none other than Neha Rauniyar herself. The complex, multi-layered mystery instantly narrowed down to two key suspects: Neha Rauniyar and Jitendra Gautam. The Thutibari and Nislal police stations quickly formed a joint task force and launched an urgent manhunt for the two suspects. Meanwhile, Nagesh's father officially filed a formal complaint at the station, openly accusing his daughter-in-law and Jitendra of being responsible for the crime. Jitendra's phone number was immediately placed under surveillance. The CDR data provided the first critical breakthrough. On the night of September 12th, all three individuals, Neha, Nagesh, and Jitendra, had their mobile locations converging at a single point. That location was Bismil Nagar, a residential area near the Civil Lines bus stop in Maharajganj. The police immediately followed this digital trail. The investigation led the police straight to the house where Neha had been living for the last 2 or 3 months. The door was locked, but the faint sound of a TV like a movie playing was audible from inside. This confirmed that someone was inside. The police broke down the door and found Neha sitting comfortably watching a movie. There was no sign of panic, no sorrow, no questions. Her face was completely blank. When the police informed her of her husband's death, she remained seated, exhibiting a chilling lack of reaction, as if nothing had happened. This cold indifference only fueled the police's suspicion. The interrogation began immediately. "Where is Jitendra?" Neha maintained her composure and replied, "I don't know." In a strategic move, the police made her call Jitendra from her own phone and put the call on speaker. Jitendra, unaware that the police were listening, told Neha, "I'm near Partawal. I will reach in a few hours. You come there as well." This slip-up confirmed his location. In the early morning hours of September 14th, around 5:30 a.m., the police successfully arrested Jitendra near Partawal. Now, with both suspects in custody, they were brought face-to-face for questioning. It was here that two vastly different narratives emerged. One as perceived by the family and the police, and the other, the chilling confession, from the suspects themselves. What twisted motive led these two individuals to orchestrate the brutal murder? And how did they carry out their sinister plan right under the nose of a sleeping 5-year-old child? With the two suspects in custody, the full, shocking sequence of events that unfolded on the night of September 12th was revealed. Neha began her confession, detailing the cold-blooded plan. On the evening of September 12th, she had deliberately called Nagesh to her rented house. She told him it was urgent and to come quickly. Alcohol had already been stocked, and Neha had prepared a non-vegetarian dinner. Everything was planned in advance. Crucially, their son, Advik, was also in the house. To ensure the boy wouldn't wake up during the heinous act, Neha had mixed sleeping pills into a sweet and given it to him. These pills were provided by Jitendra. The child was sound asleep, blissfully unaware of the deadly drama about to unfold just feet away. Nagesh ate the dinner, drank the alcohol, and slowly drifted into a deep, drug-induced stupor. Around 10 p.m., he was fast asleep. This was the exact moment Neha called Jitendra. She didn't call him directly. She used his friend's phone to avoid leaving a direct link for the police to trace later. Before Jitendra arrived, Neha took a white scarf, dupatta, and bound Nagesh's hands and feet. The same scarf which would later leave the telltale ligature marks on his neck was part of the plan. Jitendra arrived and together the two conspired lovers brutally beat Nagesh. They then strangled him by applying pressure to his throat, ending his life. During the fatal assault, a red blood-like substance began to emerge from Nagesh's mouth and nose, staining his clothes. Realizing it would be too risky to carry him out in his current state, the couple took Nagesh into the bathroom. They washed and cleaned his body, removing the evidence, and put fresh clothes on him. Between 12 a.m. and 1 a.m., the two began the process of disposing of the body. Jitendra drove Nagesh's own bike, with the unconscious, and possibly already deceased, Nagesh propped up in the middle. Neha sat on the pillion seat tightly holding Nagesh's body to keep him upright. During the long, gruesome journey, Nagesh's feet scraped the ground and the bike repeatedly, causing the injuries that the post-mortem would later confirm. The couple initially drove from Maharajganj to the Chowk, then through Nishal towards the Godwa intersection. Seeing a police patrol, they immediately turned back. They then drove approximately 25 kilometers in a different direction, towards the Damki village. On the main road there, they deliberately pushed Nagesh's body along with his bike to the ground. The entire scene was meticulously staged to resemble a simple, fatal road accident. Neha even took Nagesh's phone with her briefly to make the story more plausible, creating the perfect scenario of a man who got drunk and crashed his bike. After their gruesome task was complete, they returned to the rented house. Jitendra left shortly after while Neha stayed and calmly awaited the outcome. Following their confession, both Neha and Jitendra made public statements to the media. Their side of the story presented a completely different angle, a narrative of abuse, desperation, and financial coercion, contrasting sharply with the family's version. According to the family, Nagesh and Neha had a love marriage 6 years prior, and Nagesh was the main hard-working provider for his family. When his catering work suffered, he started working at the ration shop. The ration shop owner's son, Jitendra, often manned the counter, leading to his acquaintance with Nagesh. They were from the same village. Nagesh often went hungry during work, so Neha would occasionally bring him a lunch tiffin. It was during these visits that Jitendra first noticed Neha. The family claims Jitendra stole Nagesh's mobile phone to extract Neha's number and began a relationship. He spent money on her, tried to impress her, and slowly found excuses to visit Nagesh's house, where Neha lived with her in-laws at the time. When Nagesh found out about the affair, he repeatedly tried to reason with Neha, but she refused to stop. In a desperate attempt to separate his wife from Jitendra, Nagesh moved Neha and their son to a rented house in civil lines. This separation did nothing to stop the affair. Then Nagesh got entangled in illegal activities for money and was jailed under the NDPS Act. With Nagesh in prison, Jitendra seized the opportunity to deepen his relationship with the now vulnerable Neha. When Nagesh was released from jail, he was faced with the full reality of the affair. The couple began fighting constantly. Nagesh attempted to warn Jitendra, complained to his father, and even created a scene at Jitendra's house. But it was too late. Neha and Jitendra's relationship had progressed too far. Jitendra had spent a fortune, between 30 to 35 lakhs, on Neha. When Jitendra's father discovered the vast expenditure, he angrily threw his son out of the house 3 months prior to the murder. The constant fights between Nagesh and Neha escalated to the point where Nagesh started physically abusing his wife. The situation became so unbearable that Neha left with her son and moved to Bismil Nagar. She began living with Jitendra in a rented house, pretending to be husband and wife to the landlord. Neha was determined not to return to Nagesh. But Nagesh would frequently visit their new home, picking fights and trying to convince Neha and their son to come back. The conflict, Neha's desire to be with Jitendra and Nagesh's desperation to keep his family, was tearing Nagesh apart. These small, repetitive arguments eventually fueled the deadly conspiracy. The police, after their thorough investigation, supported the family's version. The murder was a direct result of Neha and Jitendra's affair. They wanted to live together, but Nagesh was the obstacle. He wouldn't grant a divorce because he feared losing custody of his son. The police revealed that the couple had planned to catch a train from Gorakhpur to Mumbai immediately after the murder to escape, but the police arrested them before they could execute the escape. The tragic finality of the case is centered on the 5-year-old son, Advik. His father is gone, his mother is in jail, and he has been entrusted to his paternal grandparents. His future is now uncertain, dependent on the income of his aging grandparents. The police are preparing to file the charge sheet in court, and Nagesh's father is resolute that Neha and Jitendra must face the harshest possible punishment. This story serves as a stark lesson. Dishonesty, deceit, and illicit relationships never lead to a good end. When communication, trust, and respect vanish from a home, relationships slowly become toxic. If the truth is not faced in time, small mistakes can lead to an unimaginable tragedy. Violence, conspiracy, or eliminating a person are never the solution to a problem. Justice and the law are paramount. And most importantly, the conflicts of parents cause the greatest harm to no one but their innocent children. This entire case is built upon two contradictory narratives: the family story of a faithful husband murdered by a greedy wife and her lover, and the suspect's story of a victimized wife and her rescuer ending the reign of an abusive, pimping husband. The only person who could truly reconcile the truth is dead. If Nagesh was indeed the villain Neha and Jitendra claimed him to be, why did they resort to a violent murder instead of a simple legal separation, and why does the family still staunchly defend his character?